Have you ever experienced a God wink? You know, the kind of experience you know without a shadow of a doubt that God stepped in and gave you a big old wink from heaven. I'm your host, Cindy Spar, broadcasting from Office Evolution in Troy, Michigan. I am the founder of My Collective Network and My Christian Business Network, two amazing business networking organizations. I am a firm believer that there is power in sharing God wink stories. Think of it as a way for people to shine their light on Jesus, one wink at a time. In Matthew 5:14, it says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." All right. Welcome, everyone, to the God Wink podcast. I am coming to you live from Office Evolution in Troy, and I've got a firecracker for you today that's getting interviewed. You know what's odd enough, you guys listening, is I randomly showed up to an event recently, to a prayer breakfast, and I'm going to sit down at my table, and I look over, and I'm like, I think that's someone coming in for a God wink interview. Because if you ever meet her, you're not going to be able to miss her with her eyeglasses in her hair.
And bright red hair. Yeah, that part.
So welcome, Tenita Johnson, to the God Wink podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, Tanisha, tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am, at the core of my being, I am an exhorter, an encourager, survivor of so many things: sexual abuse, suicidal attempts, depression, anxiety. In my day job, as we'll call it, I am a full-time entrepreneur. I run a publishing company called So It Is Written. And I also am the CEO and founder of the Monarch Circle, which is a nonprofit org where we help both men and women heal from sexual abuse. And we do that through the use of small groups over the course of 10 weeks.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So you don't ever sit still?
Not usually. Yeah, when God is like, be still, I'm like, you can't mean literally be still, because, you know, that's like impossible for me, God. Come on now. Clearly, I'm supposed to be doing something. He's like, no, be still. And no. Oh, yeah. But what am I supposed to do?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
When I hear Sabbath, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm like, rest for me is working on my next book. I mean, I know people think it's writing and it's working, but it's rest for me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like more filling your cup, because you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I saw a lot happening lately. You had like a ribbon cutting for the Monarch Circle
I did,
here.
for the Office Evolution. Yep. So our office is at Office Evolution as well. So we had our ribbon cutting downstairs. Yep.
Huge turnout.
Huge.
Beautiful.
It was good. Yes.
What got you to start the Monarch Circle?
So the journey to healing from sexual abuse actually started with the book series called Hush. The book is called Hush. You will know the book cover because it is a turquoise cover with red lips and a finger across the red lips as if someone is saying hush. And it's called Hush, Breaking the Cycle of Silence Around Sexual Abuse. And so the first book had 6 women in it. The second book had 3 African-American males and 4 African-American women. And we're working on part 3, so I am actively looking for all males for part 3, because I really want to do a book with just males about sexual abuse, do a big launch party, have the community come out, let them do a panel discussion, telling their truth, because it's really hard for males to come out. It's another layer of stigma when it's a male versus when it's a female.
Wow.
So that's how the Monarch Circle came to be about. And the Lord said to me, I want you to shine a light into dark places. And I said, but God, I'm only one person. And he's like, well, there's a such thing as a ripple effect. You know, you may only touch 7 people in a small group, but if one person out of those 7 people goes on to then influence millions, you've influenced the one and the millions.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of times we're looking for the bloom and the blossom from the seed in the same season when God is just saying, plant the seed. You may not be here to see the greatness and the fullness of it, but at least plant the seed. So for me, this is legacy. This is a legacy project.
So then the whole piece of even a monarch butterfly.
Yep. So monarch butterfly, but also monarch meaning priestly, kingly. So literally God said to me, I'm recrowning my sons and my daughters as if it never happened.
Wow.
And I'm bringing them back to their rightful place. Because the moment you experience sexual abuse, those clear glasses now become tainted glasses. They're no longer rose-colored. So, yeah.
There's got to be so much healing, too, that has to happen, you know, going through something like that.
A lot of healing. So I am on my 12th year of counseling, and I am not slowing down. I'm actually speeding up.
Oh,
I have 2 counselors who deal with 2 different modalities. I got EPT, which is emotional polarity technique. I've done years of talk therapy, but now I'm into the special modalities of uprooting trauma or identifying trauma.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that the Lord is still revealing things. I'll never forget, I was in a counseling session and we were doing EMDR, which is basically reprogramming your subconscious mind based on rapid eye movement to uproot the trauma.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what EMDR is. And so there's a lot of talking on the part of the client, but the counselor isn't saying much at all. They're just doing this, and you're following their fingers. They're just moving back and forth like a windshield wiper. And I'll never forget, I heard God say, this didn't just start with you. This goes back 8 generations.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps.
And for me, that's probably slavery, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had never heard that. And I've been in counseling now for well over 12 years, and I probably just heard him say that last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. You talked about shining a light, how he said, shine a light in the dark, right?
Into dark places, yeah.
How was that, though, in the beginning with doing it? Have you always been the type of person that's like, yeah, no problem, Lord, and you just walk in it and you do whatever you hear him telling you to do?
Oh, God, no. Like I was the one who, you know, I knew something wrong had happened, but just like every other victim, you know, you hold it until the body reminds you there's a trigger, somebody steps on a landmine, and then all of a sudden, boom. It's like you're right back in the same place when you were 7 or 8 and you were being molested. It's like hardwood floors are a trigger for me because I was molested on hardwood floors. So none of my houses and homes that I have hardwood floors. We have carpet in almost every room, and then we have tile in like our kitchen and bathrooms. So,
wow.
But when I see beautiful hardwood floors, I don't get the feeling like everybody else gets when they see hardwood floors. Even just hearing heels or hard shoes walk across the floor are triggering for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but for me, it was one of those things of like, as I continue to heal, my hope is that I give people the freedom to then start their healing journey as well.
yeah.
But it was not always like this. I got my greatest level of freedom in a small group. I was at a church at Detroit World Outreach in Detroit, and it was called Pure Heart, and it was really for women who were addicted to, like, sexual addictions, different things, so porn, masturbation, things like that. And in the process, it came up that the majority of the women in our small group, and there were only 5, had been sexually abused. And so our journey and our purpose in that small group was to get to a place where we could tell our family members that it had happened because nobody in the room had told their family. So at 30, I think I was 35, 36, I told my mother that it had happened. And she apologized immediately and, shared a few words, but I wasn't telling her to get an apology. I was telling her so that as I share my story in the marketplace, she's not finding out about it in a book or a movie or a stage play, because that's where I'm going with this. Like we're going like, like light on a hill, like
Exposed.
we're going national, like global, like, yeah. So I'm like, God, if I got to be the mouthpiece, if I got to be a voice for the voiceless, then I say yes. And it's a continual yes.
Did you ever feel like you were on this journey alone because of that?
A lot of times I feel like I'm on this journey alone because I'm saying a lot of things that most people are not saying. So it's funny that the Lord told me, he said, write a book. It's called Pulling Back the Covers. And I'm like, okay. But when you write a book about sexual abuse, it's, people think victim, someone else did this to her. But this book is called Pulling Back the Covers, 5 Keys for Christian Women to Break Free from Addiction to Porn and Masturbation.
Wow.
Now, that's a very long title, but God was very specific about the audience. This is not for the marketplace. If you want to read it, cool. But unless you confess to be a Christian, you want to understand the principles that I'm referring to in the book.
Yeah.
So it's for Christian women who are ready to be free, because there are some Christian women who do it because they've been single for so long and they're free. They have no conviction about it. More power to you. Mm-hmm. However, for those that want to be free, because the enemy told me I would never be free, I almost lost my husband, so many different things. And then God would say to me, listen, you got to get it out of the house, because if you leave it in the house, you leave it accessible to your children and their children.
The generations?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I had access to it. And I mean, back then it was a VHS or a DVD tape, but I had,
not to show your age at all.
Yeah, not Netflix. I'm talking about like those black things where we used to like put a big square tape, and you had to rewind and it took forever. Like, but he reminded me, he said, you got hooked on it and you found out about it because you had access. Mm-hmm. See, there are some things we'll never get into because I don't have access. I don't have access to meth. I don't have access to heroin. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the moment somebody introduces access, game over.
Exactly.
You get to choose.
It takes just a little taste, mm-hmm. and then I have to tell you, so we have 12, 14-year-old boys, mm-hmm. okay? And my husband, at one point, there were some things that had happened where we had seen concerns of them being on their tablets. Yeah. And he said, you ain't going up there with your devices. Yeah. Not going upstairs. Yeah. And they're like, Dad, like, seriously? And as a parent, sometimes you think, gosh, what's being too much? They're going to figure it out anyways. But then we're like, yeah, but we're still here to support and
guide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and shelter,
I mean, they were like, we can't believe you're doing this. And
of course they can't.
We're going to be all up in your space downstairs now, now you ain't going to be able to get rid of us. Yeah. And my husband's like, that's all right. Yeah. Because in the long stretch, all we're thinking about is your overall walk.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't have had that battle or struggle if I didn't have access. I had access by the age of 12 or 13. My mother's been single all her life. She never married. So those tapes were always with us.
There. Mm-hmm. Now, what about your surroundings of friends and all of that? Did that have any impact?
Not in high school because, of course, she could control that. But by the time I got to college, I had a body count. Listen. I tell people, the testimony goes just like this. I slept with so many men that I don't know all of their names, and I lost count. And looking back on it, it is nothing but the grace of God that I do not have AIDS, HIV, syphilis, all the things, okay? Yeah. Because I would literally be at the club like, you, we going? Back to the dorm. All right, meet me there. Yeah. Like, I don't know your name. I don't really care to know your name. But what I realized I was doing was trying to get my power back. And so I was I'm the light of the world now. I was the light of the club. Like I was like,
wow.
I was like scrub the ground, yes, and twerk and booty in the air and all. Mm-hmm. Today, I have no rhythm whatsoever. I'm like, Lord, you didn't have to take the rhythm, Lord. You could have took the butt. You did not have to take the rhythm.
Oh, my God.
He's like, nope, I knew you one better. Even if you thought you were going back to the club, you cannot now.
Or you thought you could dance even back then.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Because of drinking.
But, I mean, it was like dirty dancing. I mean, we're grinding on people, and we're on the floor, and it's a nasty floor. I mean, it's the club. People waste drinks and everything. Like, it's just, Didn't even think about it. College. Just wilding out.
Man, and I can't even believe the statistics. They were just talking about at church, like the amount of people with pornography and all these different things that they're like, just so you know, majority in the room, you struggle with it. Not just guys, girls, both of you.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a temporary fix that, I mean, it's just like addiction to food or addiction to weed or meth, or you always are going for the next high.
Yeah.
And you are always looking for the next high. I mean, it got to the place where I was, masturbating or watching porn at least 2 to 3 times a day. And then I would be so exhausted, I would just sleep. And I mean, I would sleep hard because it would literally like drain me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I just can't, I can believe he takes the people that were on that total other spectrum.
I'm like, you want me to do... You don't want me to minister. That's not what you want me to do,
He's
Jesus.
like, I sure
He's
do.
like, yep, this one. And I mean, when I got saved, I was still wearing a lot of red. And I was in the country in Missouri, and they would tell me, please, you cannot wear red in the choir. And I'm like, why? It's the blood of Jesus. But they saw it as like a passionate color, like a sexy color.
Really?
You know, red has really been this like provocative... Oh, yeah. Yeah. So even in the church, it was like, you can wear every color but red.
Wow.
No red nail polish. I didn't have red hair back then, but I used to wear red clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where did the red come from? Was it just you just loved the red, or was it like...
I really liked red in college, but to be honest with you, for 8 years I ran a writers conference called the Red Ink Conference because I'm an editor. I started my company just as an editor, and when people think of editing, they think of all the red marks and the red ink pen.
Yeah.
And then we did that for 8 years, but my hair wasn't red until maybe like the 4th or 5th year, and then we stopped doing it, of course, in 2020. But yeah, we ran that conference for 8 years, and my hair has been red ever since, probably since 2018.
Well, I think it's a staple.
Yeah. Thank
I was
you.
just like
I know,
said,
I'm like, I can't change it now. I keep asking my stylist, can I get turquoise? She's like, no. I'm like, can we do blue? No, you're too far from blue. So we're stuck with red. Yeah.
Well, I thought when I saw you in the gymnasium at Oakland University, I'm like, there's no way this lady's got like red hair and red glasses, and I just don't even care anymore.
Red
I'm just
hair,
gonna
regular. She's black. That's probably her. That might be her. So when people meet me for the first time and we got to meet at like a coffee shop or something, I email them and I'm like, listen, I'm black with red hair. 9 times out of 10, you'll know it's me. Like there won't be another black redhead in Desert Oasis. Yeah. Yeah. At that time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is awesome staple for you. I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna miss her.
Yeah. It's signature now. And I wasn't even trying to be signature. I was doing it for a conference that I no longer even host. So, yeah.
So I think, too, Red, and I'm thinking of how you help with people going into publishing. You've published your own books.
Absolutely.
24. 24.
Yes, Pulling Back the Covers is number 24.
Wow. Yeah. So how many years worth of publishing have you done?
I published my first book in 2010, so 14 years. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, 2014, I released like 3 books in 1 year. So, yeah. Some are ebooks. I don't print them all.
Yeah.
But, yeah, 24 books.
So, the red letters in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus is speaking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It immediately makes me think about that.
Yeah.
There's a song on it, right? Something about the red letters in the
mm-hmm.
Bible. But that's Jesus speaking.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You are part of that legacy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, if there was like any scripture you would pick out of the whole Bible that is the Tenita scripture.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's Habakkuk 2:2, and it's the one that I use for my business, and it's write the vision and make it plain, so that they who read it can run with it. And I remember, now I don't remember where this scripture is, but the Bible talks about without a vision, the people perish. And I used to think, well, God, if people don't have vision, like they're not dying physically. He's like, no, they're dying spiritually. They're dying emotionally. And they're literally here like a wandering soul without rest. You're just wandering. When God is like, I put you in the earth with purpose, not just purpose, but great purpose.
Yeah.
You might have to dig a little bit. You might have to unwrap all the gifts. Like I always give this example of my daughter gets so many Christmas gifts. She don't even open everything. It's just, if she knows it's closed, it's still got the bow on it. Like she doesn't even unwrap it. And I'm like, you think you know it's closed, but sometimes we just trick her and we put her cell phone in a box that looks like it would be a closed box because you think it's closed. So God is like, what things do you have hidden in you that you have yet to unlock because you think, you know, I've done all that I'm going to do in your life through you. Like it's like even the books. Now he's shifting me from the books to more ministry. And I'm like, well, God, I thought I would do books until I died. He's like, no, that was just a gateway.
It's so cool.
That was just a gateway. Yeah.
Well, he's got to always keep showing up in these like amazing ways where you're like,
yeah.
Keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, when I think about write the vision, so many people, I don't want to say we're lazy, but we're lazy. So that's another thing he's been having me study, which is where it talks about the ant and he calls us lazy bones. He's like, lazy bones. Listen, take a note from the ant.
Proverbs, man, because I've been reading it lately.
Yes. He's like, the ant neither sows nor reaps, but when ants get together, they take the world by storm. Ants can carry massive stuff on their backs when they get together.
Yes.
And so writing the vision, how many times does God give us stuff and we don't even take the time and the respect to just write it down? Just write it down.
Yes.
You don't have to do anything. Just write it down. Can we just get that simple step?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Amen. In two, which we have someone coming on that's going to talk more about this, but this is a journal I started in December. I would just start writing and writing and writing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is even a legacy, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, because this is where God is speaking in and saying, like, Cindy, this is what I'm doing, or I know this is challenging. I write out my challenges. I'm not afraid to say it.
Absolutely.
Write them down.
Yeah. And I have numerous journals. But the other thing is God has really been dealing with me. When you get a prophetic word, write it down or record it in your phone. When you have a dream that you don't understand, immediately when you wake up, write it down and date it because it will speak. It may not speak the way you think it's going to speak. It may be a metaphorical dream.
Yeah.
Or it may be a literal dream. Like I've had a dream of me sitting at a table with Tyler Perry and a bishop that's here in Detroit. And I don't know that I'll ever meet Tyler Perry, but I think it represents both ministry and marketplace.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah.
He's building an army right now.
Oh, yeah.
And my husband always kept saying, whatever can be shaken, he's shaking it right now.
It. Yeah.
And even in ministry, I always thought, with owning a business networking company, and I was like, it's faith-based. But he's like, I want you to even take away, specifically thinking about business networking, I want you to look at this on a bigger picture. There are people that are lost, and I'm going to start shaking things in their life, and they're going to start seeking truth. And who else to seek truth from, and if they're networkers, right, to come out and network, or in your ministries, all these different ministries. He's like, listen, I'm preparing you because there's going to be a flood of people that need what you are going to be.
Who are lost.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they're looking for. And there's also a Bible verse that speaks to, like, how will a person know about Jesus in essence, or how will they find him? How will they get to know him if nobody takes the time to introduce them? So we always have the opportunity to just introduce. Yeah.
We're the vessel, and
We're just ambassadors. I just wear a T-shirt. Like, I'm just here recruiting. This is not my house. Like, I'm not staying. I'm just recruiting. I'm just down here recruiting.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, this life is like a drop in time compared to eternity. Even if we live to 120 years, it's still not millions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very humbling. I remember being out in Deckerville, and we had this Christian group meeting out in the sticks, right? Okay, if you know Deckerville, it's up in the Thumb area.
Yeah.
So you're out in like fields.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord,
I'm not going.
Yeah.
Don't invite me.
I was like, what?
I will not come.
Oh, you will go if he calls you there.
I'm like, Lord, you know I'm a city girl through and through.
Oh my gosh. Well, when I went out there, I was like, what are you calling us to out here? Because I don't know people in Deckerville, and it's a small town, right?
Very.
Or even Sandusky, I didn't know a ton of people, but he just kept on calling it. And I remember going from business to introduce myself and say, hey, we've got a Christian networking group that meets at a local coffee shop here. And
that's it.
And I remember afterwards, because I had put that off to do it, right? Yeah. You know how that's like.
Yep.
And afterwards, I looked right up to the sky and I said, ping pong, you're it. I did my part. Now it's time for you to ping pong back these people. You know,
the floodgates open.
Because he's not looking for us to just sit and let him just do everything and not take action. He's like, get out there and do something so I can meet you on the other side.
I think that's the one thing that a lot of churches are not teaching. We would rather bucket plunk and throw money at it and praise and worship and shout till the walls fall down. And at the end of the day, when you leave out of that building, I tell people, I'm like, the church is a filling station. You go to the gas station maybe once or twice a week. That's it.
Yes.
You ain't at the gas station every day.
No.
So why are you at this church every day?
Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're meant to.
It's just a filling
outreach,
station.
Get out of the church.
Yeah,
fill your cup on Sunday and leave.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand why churches have outreach ministries. Like, the whole church should be outreach. But okay, call it what you want to call it.
Yeah,
like, there should already be outreach ministry naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if there was one thing you wanted to get across to our listeners, whether it be gosh, they're broken and they feel like I ain't exposing this darkness right here. What would you say to them to encourage them to let the light in?
Yeah, so I like to tell people, write the book, do the stage play, do the movie, do the script, start the coaching program, whatever God is calling you to do. I tell them, write the book, get paid for the pain, make the pain pay you dividends. Because you didn't go through it just to go through it and say, I got a testimony. Look at what the Lord did for me. Okay, great. But how can I now turn this pain into purpose? I never would have thought I would say this, and I say this with the utmost respect to every survivor of sexual abuse. It was good. The act was not good. The act of sexual abuse was not good. But for the greater good, and for God to use me as a conduit and an ambassador, a voice for the voiceless, it was good because I can relate. If I had never been through that, there probably wouldn't be a Monarch Circle. There probably wouldn't be a book about sexual abuse because that's just not my lane.
Yeah.
And so all 24 books are nonfiction. They're all about things that I've either walked through, overcome, or they're anthology collections of men and women sharing short stories about the same subject. So marriage, we have Marriage Uncut, then we have Hush, which is on sexual abuse. So I just really feel like there's a level of authenticity when we minister that if you haven't been through it, you can, like, I can minister generally to somebody who is battling with meth addiction, but I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
Because I've never walked that journey.
Yeah.
So I know who I'm called to. And I know that I'm not talking to everybody, but I would tell people it's time to get paid for the pain. The pain should be paying you dividends, but it's up to you how you can turn that pain into purpose.
Oh, isn't that the truth? You have to make a decision.
Yeah, you get to decide.
Yep.
I'll never forget, God was like, my business mentor told me that she heard God say, I will let people live on whatever level they choose to live on. So if you just believe him to be the God of just enough, he will be the God of just enough. According to your faith, so shall it be. So if you're just believing God to pay your bills, guess what he is? Just a guy who pays the bills. Yeah. That's it. But I'm believing God. I'm like, God, I need multi-millions of dollars to do all that you have put inside of me. The visions are so massive, so large, the people I want to impact. And it's all for the kingdom. It's not for me to get a bigger house,
Personal
a bigger
gain.
car. Nope.
Yep.
Nope. I'll probably downsize. Like now I'm like, how can I downsize so I can travel more and we can build more orphanages in India and Peru and
Amen to that.
yeah.
So if people wanted to connect with you, Tanisha,
Absolutely.
how would they go about doing that?
So 2 websites. They can reach out to me at TenitaJohnson.com. It looks like Tenita, but it's pronounced Tanisha. So it's funny. People call me Tanisha because they don't know what to say. But TenitaJohnson.com or soitiswritten.net is the business website. And then the monarchcircle.org is the nonprofit website. Or they can email me at info@soitiswritten.net.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Tanisha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This was cool.
Yes. So
we need a part 2, 3, 4.
Oh, it's coming.
Yes.
It's coming. God is so good.
Yes.
Well, guys, that's it for today. I just pray that if this really hits home with you or you know of somebody that really needs to hear Tanisha's story, guys, please share it with somebody.
Yeah.
Click share. We would also love to hear your God Wink story. And listen, listeners, if you guys need prayer, send it in. In the podcast notes, we have a link. We have a team of people that love to pray for you. We encourage you. Fill out that link. And other than that, guys, be blessed. Cannot wait to have you listening on our next God Wink story. Take care. I want to give a big thank you to Office Evolution Troy for providing their podcast studio for us this afternoon to record. If you have any questions or you would like to book your own time in their podcast studio, give them a call at 586-788-9966. If today's God Wink story really hit home with you, we would love to hear about it through the God Wink community on Facebook. If you know of someone that needs to hear today's God Wink story, show them some love and tag them on the God Wink podcast. You never know how a God Wink story might change their day around for the better. If you or someone you know has a God Wink story that the world needs to hear, we want to hear it. Simply click the link within the podcast notes to send in your God Wink story. Until next time, remember, God's got you. Wink, wink.